Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwin, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about the Imperium of Man as we get into Imperial law. If you guys have any suggestions for other topics of Warhammer 40K that you guys would like us to create a lore video for, please comment down below. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe because we post Warhammer 40K content every single day. With that said, let's get into 40 facts about Imperial law. The laws that govern the Imperium of Man are known as the Lex Imperialis, the Code of Imperial Law. It is written down in the Book of Judgment, kept by the Adeptus Arbites. The Book of Judgment has been painstakingly collected and annotated over millennia, and embodies every decree ever passed by the Emperor himself or the High Lords of Terra. In fact, the Book of Judgment has long since grown beyond the confines of a single tome, no matter how large, and comprises countless records, books, and legal decrees. The most ancient articles are written down on crumbling parchments, inscribed in unknown human tongue by the nameless functionaries of a forgotten age. However, every day new volumes of parchment, data records, and encoded holoscripts are added to the Book of Judgment, and interned within the reinforced confines of the Hall of Judgment on Terra. Shelves of tomes rise hundreds of meters towards the vaulted ceilings above canyons of marble and iron. Over the ages, the hall has been expanded and extended many times, so that it is now an entire complex covering many acres with miles of corridors, levels, and rooms. Scholars, scribes, and law lords pace the time-worn marble floors, while above their heads, on the narrow gantries and ladders that cover the shelf stacks like spiderwebs, crawl legal assistants and low-ranking functionaries, searching through the many judgments for weeks and months on end, just to find a single reference. Sectors ruled by the Imperium follow the precepts of the Lex Imperialis and the Book of Judgment. Over the centuries, of course, the interpretation of the Lex Imperialis by various sector lords and judges become more and more bloated from numerous additions, amendments, exceptions, and clauses, the result of interpreting imperial law to the needs of specific locales. There exists a veritable army of thousands of clerks, litigants, and barristers, toiling away on the sector's capital world just to interpret its ever-evolving decree and dictates. Indeed, the most astute rogue traders, trader houses, and merchants keep their own team of legal scholars in their employ, both to keep them abreast of the current state of law in a given sector where they do business, as well as to give them protection and guidance should they become embroiled in legal proceedings. Rogue traders often send one of their cargo vessels to the sector's capital world once a decade to obtain the most up-to-date records of the Lex Imperialis as interpreted by the sector's law. Every Adeptus Arbites judge at some point in their career attempts a pilgrimage to the Hall of Judgment on Terra, there to study the full intricacies of Imperial law. Many spend long years there, for the most heinous, subtle, or far-reaching crimes often require a lengthy process of research to pass judgment. While the dictates imperialis are extensive, the huge volumes of prior cases and sometimes contradictory rulings can make it difficult to determine the correct decision. In specially complex cases, it may take centuries to reach an outcome. A judge may spend his entire life deliberating, scrutinizing, and trying to fathom out the issue, only to pass his work on, unfinished, for others to continue. Millennia later, though the accused are long dead, a ruling is finally made, and justice must be meted out upon the distant descendants and those obscurely associated with the original transgressor. The law of the Imperium is vast and considered divine, yet it is not so great in size that it covers every eventuality. In such cases where the law fails to give clear guidance, a case must be judged in line with the precedents set by previous judgments. Between the vagueness of interpretation and the weight of precedents fall many disputes and contradictions, some of which even the Arbites judge cannot reconcile. Thus, an unbending approach to the Emperor's law can lend authorities to the indiscriminate killer As easy as it can, the guardian of order and judgment, once made, can create license for all manner of actions normally beyond consideration until a greater judgment contradicts it. The judges of the Adeptus Arbites are mighty lords, clad in the traditions of a long past age. They wield the absolute and unforgiving law of the Imperium with brutal and unyielding exaction, for it is given to them to stand guard against the treachery of those beneath them and the excesses and ambitions of those in power. Not least of all, this includes the Lord Commanders and their agents who directly govern the Imperium's many worlds. Each judge may command his own armed forces of arbitrators and can call upon the other resources for the Imperium if he requires it, trusting no one and nothing but the letter of the law. They are able to hold almost all within the Imperium to account. The power of the senior judges and the high marshals of the Adeptus Arbites is almost equal to that of the Inquisition, except they are bound entirely by the hierarchy of the Imperium and cannot step beyond the measures of the Dictates Imperialis. Given such power and responsibility, it is possible for the judgment of these men and women to stray, and for them to find themselves following a path of conflict with other agencies of the Imperium. While the Adeptus Arbites may be inflexible in the execution of their duties and unflinching in their authority, there are some threats against which neither the word of the law nor strengths of arms offer any defense. Although extremely rare, Abstractionism is considered by some to be the oldest sin that those empowered to enforce imperial law may commit. For all of the wisdom accumulated by veteran judges, the shadow of abstraction clings to their office like a leech. Abstractionism is a term applied to the condition of criminal deviancy in arbitrators who come to see the letter of the law inadequate to the task of executing their duties in a proper manner. Instead, they come to rely on summary judgment over evidence and due process. The worst stray into vigilantism, meting out punishment and death for perceived or even potential crimes rather than real ones. This creed is considered a vile heresy, a breaking of the Arbites oath, and a criminal punishment by death if discovered. Of course, those who fall into this heresy feel that they are on the side of righteousness, and that their own sense of the law and mortal imperatives are a guide to truth and judgment in the uncaring universe. In the worst of cases, such as the long-suppressed Serpecia Precinct incident on the world of Hendred, unauthorized and unmarked Arbites kill teams were sent to execute criminals at the behest of an illegal Star Chamber of Judgments. Venerable marshals used their subordinates to assassinate members of other imperial agencies who they felt must be heretics. In such rare and dangerous cases, the slide from persecuting the enemies of the Imperium to becoming one can be a swift journey indeed. Tragically, it is often the most intelligent, faithful, and dedicated among the judges and marshals that fall to the sin of abstractionism in their desire to do the emperor's work. They doom themselves to a traitor's death if they are discovered by their fellow arbitrators, and worst, should the Ordo Hereticus claim them. Conflicts between the Adeptus Arbites and other imperial agencies most commonly occurs as disputes over which has authority to enforce imperial law, and which law applies to a given case. Many judges see the letter of imperial law as not only absolutely unbending, but without boundaries or limits. Zealous arbitrators have been known to seize and execute agents of the Ministorum for executing heretics without recourse to the law, or bullishly intervene on the discovery of some cult or secret agency, only to later discover that they have jeopardized a covert inquisitorial investigation. To some foolish or fanatic judges, such distinctions as the sanctity of the navigator's ancient privilege or the imperial noble's right and title as subordinates to the requirements of the law. To them, the greater weight of the law outweighs other considerations in any and all cases. Most often, such activities are reined in by the arbitrator's high command before conflict can turn to violence or even open warfare. On rare occasions, a senior marshal or judge, knowing full well the risk of doing so, might start a secret investigation against an agency whose immunity from the law he cannot accept. Whether he is right or wrong in his suspicions, bloodshed is often the inevitable result. Unlike the mighty arbitrators, most enforcers, or planetary police force, holds little loyalty to the law itself or to the traditions of service, although there are notable exceptions to this. Instead, they function as the iron hand of the Planetary's governor rule at best, and at worst, they are little more than hired thugs with some degree of official sanction, loyal only to their paymaster. In places like the Calic sector, the role and nature of enforcer cadres vary widely. Perhaps the most well-organized and numerous force is the Magisterium of Scintilia, a paramilitary force that serves as the direct agency of office of the Lord Governor. The Magisterium numbers tens of thousands of armed men and women, nearly as well-resourced as the Adeptus Arbites. At the other end of the scale, worlds such as Lagnum, whose communities are scattered across numerous mining camps and shantytowns, make do with regulators and rail agents to maintain order and dispense rough justice. Many of these are little better than bandits and extortionists themselves. Some worlds, either through culture or simple lack of technology, do without enforcer cadres at all, the ruling classes and their private armies being in sole charge. Although this arrangement is most common on feudal and feral worlds, it is not exclusive to them, and indeed Malify, a subsector capital and a hive world second only to Scintilia, is largely governed and civil order maintained by the armsmen of its great houses. Its small enforcer cadres are little more than overarmed door wardens and palace guards. In most cases, the Adeptus Arbites and the Inquisition view enforcer cadres with some suspicion, if not outright distrust, often with good reason. And those were 40 facts about Imperial law. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any other suggestions for other Warhammer 40K videos that you guys would like to see, please comment down below. And again, guys, thank you so much for liking, commenting, and sharing. Because you like our videos, because you share, we are continuing to grow and we can continue to provide more videos for you. And don't forget, by you liking this video or sharing these videos, you're telling YouTube that you want to see more Warhammer 40K content. Just make sure that when you share, you don't just copy the URL and then you paste it somewhere. You actually share it through the links that YouTube provides. But again, guys, thank you guys so much for everything. And if you want to support us a little bit more, jump on over to Patreon. A simple $1 a month helps us create more videos for you guys. If you can't do that, completely understand. Again, just simply liking, commenting, and sharing really helps. With that said, I'll see you tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.